I just wanted to say apologies to everyone. I have a long-standing meeting at 11 that I'm going to be a little late for. I told them, but I'm going to have to get off at around 11:15. The appointment was there before I was appointed, and I can't get out of it. It's my apologies.
That's okay.
You didn't know months ago you would be here?
No idea.
Okay. Is everybody, Aaron, is everyone on, or do you know?
I feel your pain, Diane. My phone's
Not
blowing
yet.
up myself.
What's that?
I think actually months ago, none of us were sure we'd be here.
That's true.
I guess.
Yes, everyone's in now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron.
You got it.
Okay, we're on to new business. First order of business is appointment of the chair. We will be taking nominations.
I'd like to nominate Jim.
Make a nomination to nominate Faye Storms to be the chair.
Okay, I think we had both of you at the same time saying that. Well, either way, we'll know right away. So then let me say, who would like to second? Second, I'm going to say, I'm going to just do with Mike because he actually started a little bit before you.
I moved to nominate James Malcolm for chair.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I second that.
Okay. Rose, could you please take a roll call vote?
Wait,
No, hold
we
on.
don't. Yeah, we don't roll call until you close up the nomination. Right?
Oh, okay. So
Chair,
we're gonna do both at the same time.
can I
okay.
help you out with
So
this? If
I'll
you
make
don't mind.
hard to hear.
Okay, just procedurally, can I get a motion to close nominations? And if you don't mind me,
Well,
Yeah, or
no
the-
one seconded Rick or,
well, he doesn't have to have a second.
okay,
You don't have to have a second on a motion. So
Okay.
if you don't mind, I'll jump in. Are there any more nominations for chair? And usually we go through it 3 times. Are there any more nominations? Are there-
Okay, all right. Are there any more nominations for
Can I
chair?
get
Okay.
a motion from the floor to close nominations?
I'd like a motion from the floor to close nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay. Now Rose takes the vote.
yeah. Okay,
Okay.
hold on, sorry, I'm writing, and then Jimmy seconded, sorry, to close. Okay, okay, Faye Storms, which are you voting for, Faye Storms or Jimmy Malcolm?
Faye Storms.
Okay, Richard Jones,
Faye Storms.
Michael Ham,
James Malcolm.
Diane,
Faye, Storms?
Jimmy,
Jim Malcolm.
Orlando,
James Malcolm.
and Danny Savona.
Where's Dan?
James Malcolm.
Thank you.
James Malcolm.
Okay,
Did you hear me, Rose?
Yes.
yes, I did, I got you.
Thank you. James Malcolm is now chair. Congratulations, and I look forward to what you can do for the IDA in Ulster County.
I look forward for what we can do for the IDA in Ulster County. I'm invigorated by the input from new board members. You know, it's one of those things where you can really see the handwriting on the wall, and the diversity of business minds here, a lot of untapped potential, but we're going to do some good things. So, thank you, and I hope I can serve you in the appropriate fashion. And believe me, my feelings don't get hurt easy. For the new members, anyone can tell you, you know, I was afraid Rick wanted to punch me out a few times, but we got past it.
I thought the same thing about you.
A lot of love, a lot of hugs, Rick, a lot of hugs.
All right, so Jimmy, it's your take over now. So continue on the meeting.
Okay. Going through, are these appointments or are these elected? The
So
vice
you don't, yeah, we don't need to do vice chair because she's still elected through this term.
Okay.
So then you would need to do another assistant secretary because of Paul.
All right. Currently, we have Michael Ham is the secretary.
Yeah, he's a secretary, and then someone else is also an assistant secretary. There are 2 assistant secretaries. Well, I think you were an assistant secretary as well, Jimmy.
Okay. I would ask Orlando Reese to be my assistant secretary.
Okay,
And I would ask Danny Savona to be the assistant to Mike Ham. And I would hope that Diane will keep Rick in line.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over somebody else still has that background noise.
Okay, I want Orlando Reese to be my assistant secretary.
Okay, so it's Orlando, Mike is the secretary already, then Orlando, and then you want to add, are you
Dean
removing
Savona.
yourself? You're removing yourself as a secretary,
Yes.
assistant secretary, okay. And Danny, got it. Okay, and then,
Committee chairs?
then you would need to do the vote on the CEO and the C/contracting officer, and the CFO.
Rose, it did look like Jimmy was about to talk about the committee chairs. Since we're on appointments that don't require votes, should we stay there maybe?
Oh, sure, that's fine. That's fine. But, well, except we do require votes on the assistant secretary, et cetera.
Okay, well,
We could do it all at once, right?
You know what? I'll put that in a motion, for what's already been laid out there. I make a motion, we utilize Orlando Reese as the assistant secretary to the chair and Dan Savona as the assistant secretary to Mike Ham. Can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
Anything on the question? All those in favor of the motion signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Rosie, would you like to do a roll call as opposed
Aye.
to?
Yes, yep, you're right.
Okay,
Okay. James Malcolm
aye.
and Faye Storms,
Aye.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Michael Ham. Yeah. Diane Einen. Did you say yes? Okay. Orlando Reese
Aye.
and Daniel Savona.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes.
So as far as going into governance, appointed chairs, I would like to ask Mike Ham to act as to be the governance chair. I would ask the good Dr. Diane to do audit because she'll be working hand in hand with Rick Jones, and Rick's got enough on his plate. You okay with that, Diane? Michael, you okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay, I'd like to have some conversation. I would ask the chairs of those various committees to reach out, determine the skill sets of some of the other people out there, and come back with, what do we typically do? 3 on each, or?
yeah.
Well, 3 and 5 was on governance. I did check the bylaws before this. You don't need more than 3 on governance.
Okay, well, look, we'll spread it out and not overload anybody too much. So I'll ask Mike and Diane to both come back. Give yourself a little bit of time, whatever you think it is. And I know it's a little bit of an imposition, Diane, and I apologize. But I hope you've gotten a little bit of a sense of what we have on this board right now. If there's an issue, please let me know and we'll work on it together.
Okay, so then Diane would also be treasurer by default because she's the chair of audit, just so everybody else knows.
Yes.
And then finance, are you planning to chair finance then? Because finance is the full board per the charter for finance committee.
Well, look, you know what? I like to create a large footprint. I would like Faye to chair finance.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear that. What?
Would you chair finance, Faye?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You good? Or you need another motion?
Nope, no motion on that. You're the boss.
I'm not the boss. I'm
On
just.
that one you are.
Wrong guy. Wrong guy. As I said, you know, and I just, before we go out of executive session,
We're out.
you know, Orlando made a good
We
point.
were out of executive now.
Are we out of it now?
Oh, we've been out of it now.
All right, that's fine. I just, whatever we decide on, I hope we all move through the, you know, out the door and get behind it, and I think we will. So thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So now you need to just come back to the CEO and CFO for the board to vote on those.
Okay. Joe Ariel, would you, would you explain what the motion is? And then I'll ask Dan Savona or whoever to make a motion. So just as long as we have this thing.
Yeah, sure. I think
I'm Lou.
if the board is prepared to act right now to appoint those permanent positions going forward, you would just need a motion for who you'd have serving as CEO and CFO. We have determined that we want to separate those two positions, which is different from our previous approach, and that I think the discussion of the board has indicated a preference not to have the chair also act as CEO. So I think I've summarized that correctly, and I think it's just a matter of someone making a motion as to who those people should be. And if anybody's got any other questions, obviously let me know.
Let me just make it clear that Rick Jones was instrumental in this. It was good, clear thinking, and I think it's going to best serve this board as far as transparency and, again, checks and balances. So thank you, Rick. I'd like to put it in the form of a motion or ask for a motion from the floor, to have Rose as our CEO and to have Rick Jones as our CFO.
I'll make a motion.
Can I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Thank you, Faye. Anyone on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Again, Rose, a roll call or?
Yep, you got it. James Malcolm,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Diane Einen,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
and Daniel Savona.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Where are we at now? Contract for administrative services?
Yep.
Joe?
Diane? Diane, if you have to leave, If you
Not
have-
just-
okay, because we have a quorum, so you can leave if you have to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
Joe Ariel, you want to go over contract for administrative services?
Yes, so the contract for administrative services had been in place with Rose Woodworth's firm, Christopher J. O'Connor Associates. And the one being proposed for approval today is essentially the same, with a couple of small changes that reflect prior decisions of the board as to the way that contract would be managed anyway. Like during the course of the year, certain decisions were made. Now they are memorialized in the contract. So from a legal perspective, the contract is ready for action. There's nothing prohibitive in it as far as whether you can act or should act. So if it's what the board wants to do, if the arrangement is acceptable, you could certainly act on it. And right now you are in you are in an extension period of a prior contract, kind of with consent of Christopher J. O'Connor, but you really should lock this in. Now, I have one other thing to say that has changed a little since we discussed it, and that is that if Rose is now the CEO, it may be prudent to amend the contract to reflect that role. But I will say, I do not think, if the board wants to act on this contract, I do not think it is prevented from doing so with a proviso that you probably have all heard before on other boards, that council, review the contract and revise it to reflect that it's a contract for CEO services. And Rose, if now you may want to comment on that. I don't know if you think it would require more significant changes. My sense is it probably would not. It's a matter of defining the roles. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I think we
Peter,
had
no,
taken
what-
that whole-
I'll make a motion to what he just said, which is to
I'll
proceed.
second that. Is there anything on that question? It's up for
Who
discussion.
who
Anyone?
seconded that? I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any questions on that, on the roll? Again, Rose, you want to do a roll call?
Sure, no problem. James Malcolm,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes,
Richard Jones,
Yes,
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Diane Einen, I'm sorry, she's absent. James Malcolm, you did. Orlando Reese
He
Yes.
said yes, yeah.
and Daniel Savona.
we have some view of his head.
Yes.
He has something in his ear.
I went from the house to the restaurant. I'm running back and forth, so I'm trying to be here.
All right. Next order of business, the COVID response, council.
So the discussion here from the IDA perspective is that the board would like to make it very clear to the public at large, to the other agencies that are concerned with economic development in the county, and primarily to the businesses of Ulster County, that it's open for business on projects large and small. And it seems to be the will of the board that one of the products that we're going to put out that's within the purview of the IDA to do is to make it clear, to design a program that makes clear that projects that are looking to do capital improvements of less than $1 million should come and talk to the IDA. That we want to design a program that has reduced fees and costs potentially, including legal fees and maybe fixed costs, so that applicants know exactly what they're getting into when they come in with that kind of project, and they can work it into their budgets and their pro formas. The idea being that such transactions can be acted on quickly without any change in the actual procedure of the IDA, because projects that confer less than up to $100,000 or less of benefits don't require a public hearing. So a good project can come in, describe the project, and be acted on quickly by this board. The advantage of that transaction will be it would be a straight lease transaction, which then allows the applicant to save the sales tax on all their equipment, FF&E, bricks and sticks, et cetera. And coming out of COVID, a lot of small businesses, medium businesses, and let's face it, large businesses are going to need to respond to post-COVID regulations. It may also be that the COVID crisis revealed weaknesses in their own business model that require addressing it in their physical plant. Expansion of projects that have done well. Businesses that have done well in COVID are going to be key to bootstrapping up the rest of the economy coming out of this. And so we want to make it clear, the board has made clear to me that it wants to make clear to the public that these are projects we want to see. And I think that the idea that the board has suggested is that a task force or committee be formed of this board immediately that would come back with the specifics of such a plan, things like the costs and fees, et cetera, et cetera. And then that we be able to roll this thing out, announce it maybe even prior to the July meeting, so that in July we can start to do and encourage
That being the
that.
case, Joe, it's one of those, if you build it, they will come.
I think so.
I would lean on the expertise of Faye Storms and the assistant, my secretary, Orlando. As far as the marketing, and Faye knows the real estate market and properties, and we want to paint a fuzzy picture. We want to let people know we're here, and if it takes the extra step, we'll take 2 extra steps to help you out. So if you can brainstorm a little bit, and this is not just the 2 of them, this is a full board initiative. So, hand in hand, decide if you want to have
I'd be willing to get that one. I'd be willing to.
Okay, all right. Like I said, it's a full thing. We'll send out an invitation, Rose, when it fits into Faye's and Orlando's schedule, to maybe do a Zoom. And you can brainstorm ideas or where we're coming from, how to get to where we need to be.
Okay, so was that Faye, Orlando, and Danny, or?
Danny, anybody could be a part of it. Danny wants to be
Okay.
a part of it too, but it's open to everyone, but you gotta manage the chaos a little bit. So,
Great.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, what are we talking about here? The Ulster Realty?
Yeah, NH Realty, the Golden Hill project, I think is next. So this is, do we have Elliot Lee on the phone?
Yes, I'm on, Joe.
Great, okay. So I'm going to let Elliot talk in a moment, but Elliot is the attorney for the project. You've got this application in your packet. You've got a memo from me. You understand the transaction, I think, but obviously feel free to ask questions to the applicant. They've been working very closely with Rose and I to get the board the information that they need. It is an application to for the public benefit here, I'll say that it's an application to purchase the Golden Hill property and operation. It'll happen in 2 phases because they're going to buy the property right away. They can't buy the operation or close on the operation until they get certain approvals from the state, which do take some time to get. And in the present situation, some of those times have been delayed. We think that'll be somewhere between 6 months and a year from now. They'll be treated, those 2 closings are 2 separate transactions for us as well, and they'll be treated as such in terms of the way that we process it here. But the applicant's been, responsive. If there's more information that the board wants from the applicant or that Rose needs, obviously everybody can weigh in on that. I'll let Elliot describe where they're at in the transaction itself. So that we have a sense of that, because I think that plays into the action they need from us. So before we look for questions or comments from the board, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to ask Elliot to just introduce himself and say a little bit about what this is.
Please.
Yes, hi. Thanks, Joe. This is Elliot Lee. I'm attorney for the applicant with the firm Novak Birnbaum Crystal in New York. So to sort of expand on Joe's introduction, I represent Ulster NH Realty and Ulster NH Operations. Ulster NH Realty is the entity that will be purchasing the real estate of Golden Hill. Like Joe mentioned, it'll be in separate phases. The real estate acquisition, we anticipate closing in the next 30 days, hopefully. That is the goal. We have financing lined up and everything. So the goal is to close at the end of this month or early next month. And as Joe mentioned, the operations, my client is applying to Department of Health for certificate of need approval and licensure approval. That we anticipate will take about 6 to 9 months. Although the Department of Health is not processing, I understand, applications at the moment because they're just busy with COVID related issues. So once they start processing applications, we expect it to take about 6 to 9 months to be able to close on the transfer of the operations. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any other questions from you, if you want me to elaborate on anything else.
Any
So
questions,
I
anyone?
have a bunch of questions. Go, Chair.
No. Please, everybody should get a week of Rick.
So a bunch of questions or statements, one or the other. We don't have the Rose question mark. We don't have the full background check in on this. So I don't know that we can, I don't know that I want to go forward until we get the full background check. And I'm assuming when I looked at the application, there's 4 different LLCs, I think, and 1 individual. You're getting the names of the members of the LLCs, right? And the background check is being done on each one of those members. So that's a.
We only do a background check, a full background check with our background check firm is only done on 25% or more owners. In this particular case, there's only 1 person that fits that description. Then what we do here as the office is we'll do basically a Google search on news articles or social media, anything we can find on any of the owners that are 5% or more and their companies based on the information that we have. Clearly, in this case in particular, we narrowed it down. Joe, Ariel, and I went back and forth on the best way to do it so that it wasn't too cumbersome, but we're only looking at businesses that these people own 25% or more, either by themselves or together, or have like the managing stake in a company, because we can't look into everything that they own 1% of.
So background check is not done yet.
And so I got part of it back from our background check firm, but there was a question on an address, so he had to get a little bit more information, which I now have from Elliot. But no, we're not done.
Okay. The other major point I want to make is that, and I've made it before, is that the population of nursing homes are amongst the most vulnerable. And I know that in going back to the original agreement between the county LDC and the current operator, there were a number of qualifications that they had in the county resolution. And they wanted to make sure that the current owner had the competency and character to run a nursing home, history of employee relations and practices. So I think there's a whole bunch of things, including approval by the Department of Health. There's a whole bunch of things that if we were to make this transfer, allow this transfer to take place, we need to be sure that we're protecting the residents of the vulnerable residents, all the residents of this nursing home. And I'm not quite sure how to accomplish it. One suggestion would be we don't transfer, or the transfer is contingent upon the approval that they gain from the Department of Health. Presumably the Department of Health is going to look at the past practices of the people who are acquiring this and weigh in on their ability and their character and competency, their ability to run this very large facility in Ulster County. So I'm concerned with that. And I am disappointed, and I know that we did this, that we only examined people with more than a 25% interest. That I'm just disappointed that we did that. We may want to consider for background checks going much lower than that to discover the interlocking relationships between these LLCs and who are we really dealing with.
It makes sense. I think the board's thought then was just to lower the cost because it's 500 plus per applicant run through the background check, which is why, I mean, in this case in particular, well, in all of them, we did an extensive check with our prior applicants as well, but we'll be sure to do a good job as the staff as far as we can with whatever resources we have on all of the owners.
Look, nothing's ever written in stone, and Rick makes a good, viable point. In my organization, and I'm sure maybe Mike Ham could tell you the same thing, what we look at as a proprietary interest is about 15%, but you're a decision maker, a policy maker. So it's whatever you decide to set. Clearly a nursing home is different than a fan factory. I get it. And you should go to the extra mile. And honestly, these are things we'll discuss together.
Right.
But part of what I'm going to say is that, our transfer pilot programs, what you're talking about, the state gives them the okay, all of that is out of our hands. Okay, we can only do what we're able to do at this point, but some of the other stuff is, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's pretty clear that, you could have 2 25%ers and 2 20s and a 10, and so we'll deal with it as it comes along, I guess.
And Elliot, I may ask you to speak to the question of, I know that some of the concerns that our member Rick has raised are deep dives that happen in the CON process, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you can elaborate on that as far as character. And I'll also say, before Elliot speaks, that Rick, it's an excellent point, and I think if they were down the road not to receive the authorization to close on the operational aspect of it, then they couldn't meet their obligations under our agreement either. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't be running a nursing home. And but Elliot, elaborate a little on that, if you don't mind, what the review process is for you guys on the state level, because I might be wrong. It's been a couple of years since I looked at one of those applications too.
Right. Yeah. So I'll first address, I guess, the questions about the character and competency of my client. I don't know if everybody on this call is aware, but some of the members that are comprised of this new ownership group are already operators of nursing homes in New York, one in the same county, which is Tenbrook Center. That CON process closed about a year and a half ago, I believe. So they were recently vetted by the Department of Health, and they passed.
So these are going to be the same, I'm sorry, these are the same owners of Tenbrook Commons?
So the ownership, the ownership, the partnership group that is comprised of the new owners, they're not going to be exactly the same, but the individuals that will be sort of the boots on the ground have authority over the operational matters. Those are the same as Tenbrook. It's a gentleman by the name of Solomon Klein and Ernest Schlesinger. Those two were on the I know Solomon Klein was, and I believe Ernest was on as well, on the application for the certificate of need approval for Tenbrook, and they will be as well for Golden Hill. And we're happy to share. I believe that application was either submitted or it's pretty much ready to be submitted. So we're happy to share, the application. If you care to look that over, we could share that with you as well. So you can see their resume,
Could you share with us as well, the gentleman who's speaking, could you share with us as well, there's a rating system that New York State uses. Could you share with us as well, and I think Medicaid also does a rating system, since most of these clients are on Medicaid. Could you share with us the ratings for the last 5 years of the people involved with the LLCs that will own this new one, so I can be reassured that they get high marks from both Medicaid as well as New York State Health?
Sure, I could look into that. So just so I understand the request, you're asking for these individuals that operate nursing homes, for all their homes that they operate, what the star rating is for those facilities.
Correct.
For the past
there's a
5
5-star rating. There's a 5-star rating, and all the members of the LLCs that are involved in this. regardless of their percentage ownership in the LLC, I'd want to see their involvement in nursing homes in New York, well, not just New York State, but what are their ratings from Medicaid? Yes, Medicaid, and from New York State Health.
Okay, I'll reach out to my client about that.
Okay, that's very vital to my support for this transfer. And Joe Ariel, I have a question about how many years do we have left? Was this a 25-year or a 35-year inducement?
25.
How many years do we have left?
Most.
Yeah, I think it's only a couple years in, right?
Yeah, I think it was from 2013, so I think it goes till 2039 off the top of my
Right.
head.
Yes, it was in the 30s that it went to. Yeah.
Other questions or opinions or concerns? Rick, are you good?
Yeah.
Well,
that's-
you know
that's
what, Jim, if I could touch on that, I don't want to be the agency that oversees all the different healthcare centers. I believe there's another department in the state that does that. But what I will back up Rick on the fact that I would like to see their grading with the state on Tenbrook Commons and some others before we go ahead. I don't want to get in the way of it. But you know what? If this in any way holds them to a higher standard by I don't know, holding their feet to the fire, so to speak, I got to support Rick on this one, man.
Well, listen, we're just doing our due diligence, and as a board
Yep.
member, that's something that you'd be remiss if you didn't air it out there. So better to get it right than,
Yeah, I got to back Rick on this one.
Yeah, this is Elliot. I'll just sort of raise one, I guess, comment. Because of the two-tiered structure of this acquisition, we're closing the real estate first and the operations later. Just so that you know, I mean, in the unlikely event, it's highly unlikely that my client would not be approved for the license. But let's assume that were to happen because of character and competency. The existing operator, Golden Hill Planning Corporation, which the IDA obviously has vetted in the past, they would remain as the operator and have responsibility over the operations of the facility. So even in the unlikely event that my client were not to be approved by the Department of Health later on, we would just end up going into a real estate ownership and a lease to the existing operator.
but you understand you'd still be responsible, correct?
For that, yes, as the real estate owner, that's correct.
All right.
But not for the operations and the resident care. That would fall on the operator, of course.
Well, it's again, perspective, however you want to put it. If they're your operator, then at the end of the day, it reflects back on you. So hopefully you come back with flying stars and we can move this thing forward, but realize that, we end up bearing the brunt of this. And this group here is about good moving forward. So Rick, do you want to put anything in the form of a motion about not dealing with it today until the background checks or?
If you don't deal with it today, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think you need a motion. I think it would, because you're just not taking an action. I think what you want to do, and it sounds like you've already done this, you've asked some very specific questions about what else you want from the applicant, which is complete the background check process and provide this history of ratings. So they've got their marching orders. I think the discussion is, how long you think it'll take you to get that information back to us, Elliot, and where does the timeline fall? Faye, when would our next meeting be? July something?
Joe E., why don't we just let this flow as opposed to, we gave quote unquote marching orders to the gentleman who's here representing them. I'd like to see certain information. There may be other things the board wants. When he gets it to us, we can then decide what our next step is. I don't want to be shoehorned into we're gonna have another meeting before our next meeting.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I was asking when our next meeting was.
July 8th.
Okay, so it behooves the developer to go out and get done what needs to be done, right? Rick, does that satisfy you?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. We thank you for, do you have anything else to say, sir?
No. I mean, we could pull the star ratings. They're all online. You could pull the current star rating immediately, so we could get that information right away. I'm not too sure about the historical star rating, whether they have a record of that, but I'll look into that. And,
It's not
either way,
my
we'll
business.
respond to you.
To be clear, it's the star ratings on nursing homes that are run by the owners and participants of the LLCs that are being proposed. That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah, CMS has a website where you can pull that immediately. So
Okay.
we'll pull that for the current star rating.
How about we do this? Rick, would you give Rose a list of things that you're looking for?
Sure.
Rose can email that to the client. And
Perfect.
that way there's, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I'll send it out after the meeting sometime today before the day is out. Sure.
Great.
Thank you, Jim.
Great.
I'd like
Thank
to thank you, sir, for making some time to talk to us. And I look forward to a successful endeavor. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for allowing me on this call. Thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
bye.
Brings us to public comment. Only on agenda items. Is there anyone? I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Anyone on the question? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Looking forward to working with you, Jim, and everybody, all the new folks on the board. So this is going to be fun.
I
Um,
think, yeah.
Have a good day, everybody.
Wait,
Take care
wait,
now. Bye-bye.
Wait.
Oh,
We have
with the
CRC.
CRC.
Yeah, there's still
CRC.
CRC. Aaron, do we have to stop the live stream and then do a new live stream to go to CRC?
We can keep going.
Okay, is there a way to be able to cut it off though, so I can post it where it has to go on the website?
No, then I need to stop it.
Okay, so you can stop and do a new one real quick, right?